By 1811, Napoleonic France had conquered much of Europe. However, outside of the French sphere of influence was the pesky United Kingdom. France could never invade England because transporting troops across the sea would be a very difficult ordeal. Moreover, this brings me to another point: the British Navy. As an island, the British had to develop a navy in order to do things with other countries, like communicate and trade. And when the British built a navy, they built a navy. The British Royal Navy was by far the most advanced sea army out of any countries on Earth, which means that when invading England, France would need to beat the British at sea and control the waters surrounding their island, without losing resources and supplies to actually invade the country later on. Napoleon never beat the British at sea to conquer England. With a great culture of seafaring and exploring the oceans, the English had set up colonies in the Caribbean and India, from where they made a lot of money. With all of this money, the government in London sent copious amounts of money to European countries at war with France, who, after 6 attempts, defeated Napoleon. The advantage the British had was huge, because it meant that although at war with France, the British did not have to take as much damage or casualties while fighting them, meaning that the United Kingdom did not have to spend time and money rebuilding after wars, and was ahead of their European neighbors. No army could cross the sea into England and pillage the country, and so the British remained safe from what Napoleon had done to the rest of Europe. Adding on to this, we can look at a map of the British Isles. Do you notice anything? The Isles are all environmentally very boring. There are no volcanoes, hurricanes are rare, and earthquakes rarely, if ever, happen. Similar to how a lack of invading armies meant that Britain didn't have to rebuild after each war, a lack of heavy natural disasters meant that the British did not have to rebuild after nature destroyed their cities, which is something not every European can say for themselves. Not having to worry about their survival, the Brits were able to spend more time on science, economics, and philosophy, churning out people like Isaac Newton, John Locke, and James Watts. Britain was safe from people and safe from nature, two aspects that nobody else in Europe had. Scandinavia was too cold, and Southern Europe had its fair share of conflicts and earthquakes. And Central and Eastern Europe had many land wars between one another, which pillaged their land every time. Only Britain was safe from all of this. That being said, the British, a people who were masters of the sea, had some of the most advanced science and technology, and had lots of money they didn't need to spend on rebuilding from wars, were poised to explore the world and colonize everyone who didn't have all the advantages that they did, creating history's largest empire. Later, when the Germans fought the British in World War II, the country was largely safe from a German blitzkrieg because, similar to Napoleonic France, German troops couldn't effectively cross the Channel, keeping Britain immune to Germany's normal strategy. The German Air Force, though, was able to bomb British cities to rubble. However, this was only one half of their strategy, because without land troops invading England while airplanes made chaos, Germany couldn't control the Isles, and the British avoided German occupation, a fate that very few in Europe managed to avoid. Despite the victory though, the empire was not in a good position, especially as the United States and the USSR got more powerful. In this, geography strikes again. If we look at a map of the United Kingdom, we notice something. It's small. America and the USSR were continent-sized countries, whereas Britain is an island and a third in some corner of Europe. The British Isles did not have the resources to compete with the Americans and Russians in a world that had gotten bigger, largely as a result of Britain's very own exploration of the planet. Yes, it did have its colonies, which did supply the British with resources. However, those were colonies. And colonies were not very liked by the people being colonized and the people not doing colonizing, of which America and the USSR were not colonizing, and put pressure on the British to leave their colonies. Unable to compete with those giants in the same way, the United Kingdom benefits from a special relationship with the United States, where it can utilize significant soft power to influence the most powerful country in the world, especially as a financial hub itself.